So good of you to join me here on this very sunny day. Very sunny, unlike any other day we had here up until so far. Actually, it's fantastic here. Who of you are here since Friday, since we started? Everybody, or are you just visiting for a day? Oh well, let's get to the presentation anyway. All right. Do's and don'ts of freelancing. It's basically a talk about how I run my business in the Netherlands, but for this occasion I try to adapt to a more EU-style approach. I hope to be able to share a couple of concepts with you. For one, that having your own company, I think, is absolutely the way to go. Why to become a freelancer or have your own company? Let's get this straight. It's about money. But it's about money coming in and going out, like in this case, me sponsoring this conference. So I'm afraid money is a necessity. Well, what is DevHDR or Halenas? It is the company of myself and my wife at this moment. Basically, we have registered that the goal of the company is to deliver products and services in just about any area we are interested in, which basically mean a lot of IT stuff, events organizing, and stuff like that. Currently consists of 2 people. It's my wife and myself. Basically, I'm the one who does the most workshops. But actually, do we stick to IT or something else? No, because, for instance, I'm also the business manager of a classical choir in the Netherlands. Basically, the message I'm trying to convey here is do whatever you are really passionate about and try to find somebody who's crazy enough to pay you for that. We'll get into that later. Let's go the other way. All right, what do we do? A lot of consultancy and advice, websites, workshops, presentations, doc training. Well, coherent list, right? Basically, I think the power of freelancers, or at least small and medium-sized companies, lies in the fact that the diversity of the knowledge and the insight a freelancer can give, because of the fact that he's mostly been in a lot of situations, done a lot of projects, means that he is capable of adapting to a situation. I think that is the biggest value you as a freelancer or a future freelancer can offer to just about any client. And basically, it means you have to be able to twist yourselves into any kind of interesting curve, bend or nut, but it is rewarding. Well, because I have only half an hour, I'm not going to tell you so much about myself. Basically, view the presentation online again. But this actually states that my current company was simply created because of the fact that we had the opportunity to do some stuff, to get some assignments. In this case, my wife had a couple of projects, and here we go. A joint company was born. How does that feel, actually? Well, at the beginning, it's a bit daunting, but it gets better. Actually, I think in the current economic situation, starting small, starting as a freelancer makes perfect sense, because actually you can start with simply what you have and try to work from there. Basically, I think if in the current climate most startup business who have the idea for which they need internal investors, I think they're thinking too big. I simply think that starting with a small core activity, building from that, learning from that, improving that experience is way more valuable than starting big and grinding to a halt fast. The plus sides are simply that you can do a lot of focusing on your actual value, on the value you as a person, as a freelancer, can offer to a company, instead of simply working for external issues like bank loans, mortgages, stuff like that. If you don't have that kind of dependency, if you don't have that kind of pressure, it simply frees you to do a lot of stuff. Also, it creates more sense of urgency. I've seen a lot of startup companies screw up because they had startup investments, they had a lot of people behind them who donated money so they could get their business started. So they thought, hey, my bank's account full of money, right, I buy a couple of nice air books or stuff like that, and all right, there's still money. And after a couple of months they discover, hey, now we have a really nice company on paper, but we lack a teeny tiny detail, which are customers. If you do not have this sense of urgency, like you need to get customers or a client because of your startup investments, the capital you already have, then I think it's better to start small. It's better to start actually almost broke. And it also gives you a better understanding of your own market position, because starting small requires you to look around for small openings, try to find the niche that you fit in right. And this is actually a plus side. Okay, when not to start small. If you need a production facility or like shopping or window space, my personal idea is that in the current situation, just about anywhere, whether it be Greece or the Netherlands or you name it, starting a physical company, like hiring offices, is really not that much of an option for most people. But of course, if you have this brilliant idea of a new product, you can always look for partners, because actually it could just be, and nowadays if you want to produce stuff with 3D printers and stuff, it's even possible to produce physical items. If you have a nice idea for a product, find a partner, go for it. But actually, I think this is about freelancing, so I'm gonna stick to that. What business models to choose? Actually, this is more of a legal question, because in the Netherlands you have basically 4 models, and I checked this is basically the same in most EU countries. You have the personal, purely I am the brand, I am the company, freelancing stuff. You have a small firm, perhaps with 2 people, which is actually the type of company I currently have. You can work with limited liability stock-based companies, which basically mean that you sell pieces of your company, your product, to other people to invest in. But this actually means also a lot of more paperwork and a lot of legal stuff. Actually, in the Netherlands, you also have to have a starting capital to even start a company with limited liability. You have to have like 25,000 euros in the bank and prove that before you can even start that. And of course, you have the public stock. If you are really ambitious, you can of course start as freelancer and try them all. Actually, I've been up until here already, so I'm collecting titles. No, I actually stick to freelancing. It's a lot simpler. There's only one actual reason. The big difference between the actual, let's say, personal business like freelancing and firms versus limited liability is indeed the liability. If you take big projects, if you do project management with a lot of risks, then actually setting up such a construction can make sense, because if something in this project went wrong, then at least you could like fire up the company or bankrupt the company and not get touched yourself up until a certain extent. Also, if you're teaming up with other freelancers or other companies, it really makes a lot of sense to actually start a construction like that, because you will simply be protected from financial issues from the other parties, which could, in the first 2 categories, mean that you could be personally held accountable, which I can assure you would suck if that happens, because then actually they could like sell your house. Let's move on here. I have to keep up the pace because of the half an hour, but if you have questions or stuff like that, please wait until the end and I'll try to answer as many as possible. Let's focus again on what the objective here is actually. Well, how do you get to that? Actually, I'm gonna work out the points you see here, but make a mental note of this list, and if this makes you dizzy of the complex stuff you have to undertake, then I think you might need to evaluate if you really want that company or if you simply want to stay employee somewhere. But I'm going to go into all the different points one by one. Here we go. How does that feel? Well, to me at first. Right. Make a business plan. I cannot reiterate this enough, really. Making a business plan is simply also a manner of keeping yourself focused on the goal that you've set yourself to produce. Being a freelancer, it's really easy to just react to everyday circumstances, and before you know it, you're 6 projects away from things you actually were started to do, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, that's like flexibility, which is possible, but make the decision consciously, and actually making a business plan is actually a good way to also define the scope of the level of services that you want to provide at first. In this business plan, there should definitely be at least a rough outline of the kind of client you are going to target. Because being a freelancer actually means you have to seek your market. Find a market you're comfortable with. Find a market, look for markets that you already have some kind of understanding of. Put it in your business plan. In your business plan also costs, insurance costs. Actually, be very wary of the monthly cost that you will have anyway, because this actually usually are a couple of €100 each month. Insurance, electricity, phone bills, stuff like that. It's easy to oversee them because they go automatically, and before you know it, they're more than you want. Be also very, very clear to yourself and honest to yourself about which level of, which standard of living is actually acceptable for you. If you like to go on holidays, it's not like being employed and getting holiday money each year or something. No, you have to actually plan that and save that up. To be honest, I've had a business for 15 years, some-ish by now. My holidays have, I think, consists altogether of maybe like 2 months in those years in total. I do not mind. I love it. Actually, being here is a holiday for me. Wonderful one too. But be honest to yourself. If you like going out for dinner, or if you have hobbies or stuff like that, do not think that you will easily give that up. Do not do that anyway. Maintain that. Actually, on that same page, think about your living situation. Do you have a partner? Do you have children? Do you maybe one day want to have children? But also, do you want to take courses? Do you go to university? Do you have to pay for anything else? This is not only a money issue, this is also very much a time issue. You have to plan this. With my wife, I got this really, really nice stepson. He is now 9 years old. He deserves attention. My wife also deserves attention, of course. We have a couple of dogs, we have cats, we have hobbies. This actually takes up a really insanely huge amount of time compared to the time that I did not have this lucky circumstance, by the way, which I truly love. But make sure you keep time, or you keep track of time to do that. Also, what's your starting point? Are you employed? All right, that means you basically probably have a lot of time already spent on your employer, or at least probably you should, because else your employer would be probably pretty much unhappy. But if you receive like welfare, then also check with the Welfare Institute if there maybe are special arrangements for starting your own business. A lot of countries in the EU actually have special programs to go from a welfare situation to having your own business, and actually to some extent sponsor that. That is nice. And define for yourself also, as being a freelancer, it could mean that you could be between jobs for quite considerable time. Watch this, because if this happens and you have to look for a job again, that also takes time. So simply keep track of time, look back at your business plan a lot, and you should be home free. Business contract. Business plan is like the rough outlines, global visions and stuff. Business contract is actually the document in which you exactly describe what you will do. What products do you have? Are you going to give workshops? Are you going to give consultancy advice? Are you specifically just write it out? Everything. Does that mean you're fixed? Does that mean you're inflexible? No, you can always change that, but go from a standard. Because also if you go to a customer and he will ask you, well, what can you offer? And you say, well, just about anything. That will be the shortest conversation ever. Which will usually not end up in a contract. Also, think about if you work with multiple people in conjunction with other freelancers, who is allowed to represent you, and to what extent. I mean, if you are like a programmer and you work together in a team of freelance programmers and you have like a business contact, be really clear about who does what and who has saying over what. That is absolutely paramount. Be also careful with the concept of liability. In the current economic situations, clients are more detail-oriented than ever. Clients will really try to absolutely minimize their costs and maximize the time you as a freelancer will spend for them. So so maximize the possible exposure you could have from that. Organize your finances. Separate your finance streams between personal and business finances, which is also something fiscal services will require. Next one. Any better feeling already, or I can see relieved faces everywhere. Terms and conditions. Important part. Actually, the first part of this talk, as you might have noticed, is about legal stuff. The second part will be about how to get business. Actually, having terms and conditions, I think, is absolutely paramount, because they're only useful in case of trouble. Yeah, that's true. And then they're fantastic. If not only be it a document of like 30 pages which you can hit your customer with, but also because actually you should have described a procedure if there should be any dispute with your client, how this procedure will go, which effectively enables you to be in control of that situation. Think good about this. Actually, most Chamber of Commerces or branch organizations and stuff will have standard terms and conditions, which you can perfectly use. They're proofread by legal advisors and everything. So also keep them current. Absolutely important. If you decide to do other business, if you decide to suddenly offer products next to services, keep your terms and conditions updated, or at least review them. But be also really careful not to have the paperwork take over the business. But I assure you, the first period of starting a business consists of 3 P's, which will be paperwork, paperwork, and paperwork. Is this counterproductive? No, because if you've done this once, you'll love it forever. At least I think so. Regulated registrations. In most countries, you're actually obligated by law to at least register, register yourself at a couple of institutions, which mostly are chambers of commerce, fiscal services, and as I have experienced, it's always useful to get some kind of networking or branch-specific organization membership. Were it alone that you could actually refer to that membership in meetings with a client, because since freelancers are actually pretty hard to frame, in which products and services they offer, if you're a member of a branch organization, you can refer to that in a client. And also, branch organizations do a lot of PR promotion for the specific target product range you are trying to offer. Administration, my favorite part. No, not really, but you should have at least some. First and foremost, being a freelancer is really attractive to keep your finances simple. Everything in one account. Don't do it split. Really, really split. Act like if you're a multinational with a finance process and everything. Be sure you know which money belongs to your company and which money is personal. If you don't do that, fiscal services will have your liver on toast. Maybe not that, but still. Actually, I have some detailed tips. Look them up later, because I don't want to stop at administration. Well, what's the end goal? To live happily and nice, and I think shiny paprikas are a good example of nice vegetables. Private and business costs or equity. Like I said, keeping it separate. This also is very valid for usage of items, like your car. For instance, you will probably use your car to go to clients and go to meetings or go to courses and everything. In most countries, there are specific tax regulations for business usage of private vehicles. This could save you a lot of money. But also, it's important to know where your equity is. Where's my money? Is it in my car? I mean, I own a classic car, which I like to think is invaluable, but still probably can be taxed. Actually, I have to think each year, have I used my car mostly business or private? Because for the fiscal year, it really makes a difference if I put my car under personal equity or company. Actually, call fiscal services. Do that. Ask for advice. I'm not going to say fiscal services are your friend, because that would overstate it. But in most countries, they're quite helpful, at least in the Netherlands, let's say like that, and Germany as well. They're quite helpful in offering advice on at least the minimum level of detail you need to keep in your administration. And this can save you a lot of time, because if you simply format your administration into a format that already is close to what the taxpayer or tax organization wants, it saves you a lot of conversion time at the end of the fiscal year. So you can use this. Last point, and this includes my advice I give you here in this presentation. Do not blindly take advice from friends or relatives, because they are not in your specific situation. They have their own business, they have their own specifics. Find out for yourself. Understand what you are doing. That is absolutely paramount. Before, in the first couple of years I had a company, I would outsource my finance administration to this company. I had this really warm and fuzzy feeling that it was taken care of really nicely. I got these reports each 3 months, and at some point in time I stopped reading them. Then I did at one point, and I actually got pretty big a shock at the level of mess that my administration had become. Be in control of your own administration, absolutely. Facilities. Think about what you need. Do you really need an office? I mean, most freelancers can really work from home. Or if you can't work from home, you can probably just work from or have client meetings in hotels or other public places. Think about what you really need. If you also need like laptops or telephones or books for that matter, you know, the paper stuff also come in electronic ways now. Mostly if you buy them for your company, they're tax deductible. That's good. Also, facilities include, I think, a company name. It's an asset, absolutely, and you should protect it. The best way of protecting is simply by using it. Because if some other company decides at one time that DevHDR is a good name, which I seriously doubt, but still it might, then I can always show I've been using it for 10 years plus by now, and in best case I can charge money for that name. That would be nice. All right. Well, insurances, favorite object of every Dutch folk. We have insurances for just about anything. It's really nice, but I would at least advise you to take a look at a couple of insurances next to health insurance. First is legal expenses insurance. Actually, you do not control whether a client is happy or not. Clients can be unreasonable, clients can be impossible, clients can be obnoxious, and they can also be your best friend. So, in the latter case, everything's fine. In the former case, you'd be really happy to have legal expenses insurance, because in the general, I think that the yearly fee is maybe a couple of €100, which actually is a couple of hours you need from a lawyer. If you ever need a lawyer, you're going to be really happy to have that insurance, and trust me, you will need it. Disability insurances, think about that as well. I mean, if you're employed, actually your employer has this obligation by law to insure you from, or at least pay you out if you become disabled or something else nasty happens. But as being a freelancer, you don't have that protection. You really need to insure yourself. Look into that. The best thing about actually disability insurances is that they're mostly tax deductible. Income insurances, some mortgages actually require freelancers to take insurance of income. I think this is pure robbery, because these insurances cost a couple of €100 per month, and if you read the small letters and still have no migraine attack when you read through them, you will find out that they effectively will never pay, because they will pay unless you actually have no income. All right. Also evaluate your existing situation, like mortgage and everything, because mortgage specifically have fixed periods of interest changes, and a lot actually of banks charge different interest rates for freelancers and shop owners than they do for private persons who are employed. So check out that. And it's also really, I found out there's really more than like 3% different between different mortgages in what they charge freelancers and whatnot. And actually that's like a couple of €100 each month if you have at least a remotely nice house. Pension, another thing. Most countries, there is legislation which simply requires an employer to build up a pension for you. As a freelancer, you do not have that. So actually, you have to do that yourself. But you can do that in a couple of different ways. And actually, that's one part I really like, because in the Netherlands, we have this really interesting system in which when you're employed at a company, you cannot choose. You have to build up a pension at the insurance company that your employer has a contract with. All right? Nice. So if you switch job like 4 times or something, you will have 4 different pensions in 4 different places. If you're a freelancer, you don't have all that bullshit. You can do it yourself. And actually, what I'm doing is I'm repaying my mortgage. Sorry. faster than I should, because repaying my mortgage actually makes a lot of sense, because if it's repaid, I don't have to pay the interest anymore. If it's repaid, my home is actually my own asset, which I might be able to sell if I reach the probably 80-year threshold, which it will be by that time to have a pension. Look into alternatives anyway. Look also in annuities. If you have a rental home, then of course paying your mortgage doesn't make any sense. But there are usually a couple of bank products which by law in different countries have tax, are exempt from taxes, something like that. Look into it. It could be really interesting. All right. Like I just mentioned, somewhere there should be an old-timer just to keep you awake. How to build up a network. Actually, we've now reached the second part. So glad you're still here. How to build up a network. Actually, like I mentioned before, branch organizations. Not necessarily your own branch, but look them up. See what's available. Do some research and see if they organize meetings, networking events, barbecues, whatever. Look for customers there. It's my belief and experience that targeting customers directly is effective rate like 5% or something. It's really not that feasible, because they get applications from freelancers and companies like 10, 20 times a day, and most likely you will not stand out. But if you get into the private network of organizations, branch organizations, and meet customers there, you have a much nicer connection actually already to them. They don't feel pressed. You can give free advice. You can simply talk to them, get to know them. They will know your name. That's good. Actually, also, when building a local network, look for volunteer applications. Maybe even at the local football club, because all the parents, probably there are a few business owners, and simply you'll be doing something back for the community, which is also nice. Also, don't be afraid to ask for help. Most startups have this really nice feeling that they should do everything because they're all grown-up boys and girls and they should be able to manage themselves. Well, don't be shy, just ask. If you have a question, then poke your neighbor and ask for something. It's actually not that bad, because actually you are building up relationships, and that's, I think, what business running is all about, building up relationships within your own network, with your clients. Simply try to be on the radar. Well, actually this pretty much sums it up. Invest in a network also of like-minded professionals, because there will be big projects. You will not be able to handle them on your own. I have a network of a lot of freelancers, and if I have large projects, I simply payroll some employees. So basically, make sure you have the muscle power to also do this project you cannot do alone, because there is nothing worse than having to say no for a client because you're a freelancer, because then every piece of prejudice there is against freelancers, namely it's a risk, they're a one-man operation or woman operation, you need to avoid that stance. Also, make sure that different disciplines in your network exist. One person is never able to cover all disciplines, and yeah, well, simply, I do not ever want to be called again at like 11 hours on a Friday afternoon because some client just had some leakage in its server room or something and its private cloud just crashed and burned. I've had that too much. Really, outsource it. Do that. There are always masochists you can find who like that stuff. But don't overdo it. Also, do not try to operate with like 20 different parties. Find a there's not a rule of thumb to name here, but actually in my own network there's like 5 actual same level type of guys and girls who can do project management, who can do development. I also have the availability of a team of developers, which I can simply upscale if projects go large, but also keep it manageable. I mean, in the past I also had personnel at one time. There is this Jewish curse, actually, I wish you a lot of personnel. Do not do that. Please do what you like, do not have personnel. Well, how to get projects? Most important, find out where your client is hiding. But basically, start local. There are always local organizations, business foundations who have yearly meetings and stuff like that. Go there, but first investigate your client. Register onto the fora and networking sites. See what is actually on the mind of your potential customer, so that you can already do some research and be like really intelligent when you actually go to that barbecue and meet your potential client. Also, determine what will be your minimal hour rate. Do not be tempted to compete on price, because you do not want the label of being the cheapest one. That is a label you can earn once and will never get rid of again. And do not even think that starting low and going up is a valid option. Well, usually you want to have long-term relationships with your clients to be of service. And if you ever get this client for a minimum fee, yeah, well, that's what you're basically going to get during the next few years. And you don't do that. Actually, look at what your costs are, a realistic approach, and simply divide that by the realistic amount of hours that you are able to spend on actual client work. And there is not exactly a rule of thumb, but I looked this up. The Chamber of Commerce in the Netherlands actually advises freelancers to have a quarter of the hours, or at least to estimate a quarter of the normal hours that you would work as a normal employee to be actual billable hours. So in the Netherlands, an actual working month is 160 hours. I don't know how that's in Greece or something, but let's just keep it at 160 because it divides easily. That basically means that you get 40 hours each month, which are basically billable. The rest of the hours, you're doing research, you're doing administration, finance crap, interesting things. So basically, sum up your costs, divide them by those 40 hours, and see what comes out. And if that's like 200 euros an hour, probably your standard of living does not suit freelancing. Yeah, it varies. My hourly rate varies between 70 and 110 euros an hour. Can we cut this out? I mean, this effectively just ruined my bargaining room. I need to think about this further. In my branch, it's usual that that's the cost, but no, of course. All right, I'm coming towards you because of the recording.
We used to do that in Greece about 5 years ago, but 5 years in recession, has changed quite a bit of that.
I feel sorry for you. Create more business here, because actually I believe that you can do that. But there is this little teeny tiny detail that's called reality, and it's simply you cannot change what the whole market is doing. But I think what you can change, and I think is being effective. A trap most freelancers easily walk into is doing projects all over the place, but they misjudge the traveling times that takes. Starting local and building up your network locally effectively eliminates traveling time. I have found that to be a really valid solution of pumping up my effectively in the region. Actually, I find this really nice. In the past couple of months, most of my clients I could visit by bike. And in the Netherlands, we're very fond of biking, but effectively that meant most of my clients were in a radius of about 20 to 40 kilometers. That is doable. Also here, also start other initiatives. I mean, I'd be more than happy to pitch a couple ideas. Actually, I did at the nice bar session yesterday evening, I think. Also, to carry on here, respond to project offerings. Not necessarily because you want to fulfill them or you have time to fulfill them, but to have your name on the radar of possible clients. Be in their mailing list, be in their contact list. And that's where your network comes in. If, for any reason, this project might come your way, you can always suggest a colleague, which also looks good for your client because you have still offered a solution. That's good. Here we go. Beginning is always hard. Do not be picky in accepting your first projects. Actually, take just about anything which makes any contribution to your resume. Even if it are projects of like 3 hours of work, nobody on LinkedIn will see that it only was 3 hours. Also, get out of your comfort zone, but don't be too eager. Like if you're responding on like 100 projects each time, that might be an indication. I think I have to just about stop. How much? 5 minutes? All right, thanks. Yeah, I usually buy a bigger laptop instead of glasses. But if you're responding to like 100 projects at the same time, I think it's time to look at your basic offering. It might not be optimal. Oh, and return favors. Ask for favors. Return favors. Make it a cycle. That is how you build up your network. And do not make the mistake that handing out business cards is creating a network. No, it's not. Actually, handing out business cards is nice, but the only thing that will help you if the client already has an idea who you are, because this client will get like 100 business cards each meeting. It's basically just... Actually, a technique which worked for me, I used to give business cards at the beginning of a conversation. Now I ask a client at the end of a conversation, would you like a business card? Which mostly actually means a transaction is going to take place, because the client will say, yes, apparently I want this, so psychologically, maybe we can do business. Any questions? I have 4 minutes and 2 seconds. You. I will come towards you with the microphone.
Thank you. I would like to ask you if you think that all the steps that you described are necessary to be taken before you even have an income, like networking and subscribing to memberships and insurances that you don't really need at the start when you have no money out of your business yet?
Short answer, yes, I think you should do that. Not only because no, let's rephrase that. Actually, it helps you to actually get an indication of the branch area you could be working in. You don't necessarily have to become a member directly, but investigate at least the availability of branch organizations and stuff like that. So you get a clear picture of what your client, where your client organizes. So all the paperwork, yes, it should be done, because when you do actually get this client, you will not have time for all the paperwork. It's best to do it in front, because also the paperwork helps you to scope and focus on your actual idea. I think you should do as much upfront as possible, because when you've done all that, you can actually focus on your business. Anything else? I see another question. I see someone jumping up. So, here you go.
I see that you offer a diverse range of services as a freelancer. How does this affect potential new customers? Is there a realistic risk that they may get confused when they see your public profile, your public company profile? Or does this diversity actually make you more attractive to clients?
Of course, I think it makes me more attractive. But actually, I think this is what happens over time if you run a business the way I do. To enlighten that a little bit, I've this sort of principle that every time I have a new business model or business idea, I need to find a partnership or a client to actually work that out with, which effectively means I will do a lot of different things. But actually, in my case, I have not experienced that this is a negative thing. It actually to a client shows that I can be flexible, I can be empathic to their situation, I can simply get into a certain situation, a project or anything, and absorb it and offer a service. Actually, most of my work at this time is being offered by clients who have word-of-mouth advice from other clients, for which I have done previous projects. And since these other clients have a pretty clear image of the scope of the project that I did, I usually get requested to do like-minded projects, and then it's just a nice plus for this new client, potential client, that I can also do a lot more. Does that answer your question? Okay, great. You had another?
Okay, this one is more like a philosophical question. There are people that say that in times of economic crisis, it's the best time to start a new business. Where do you stand on that?
I have actually I'm having my 4th crisis now since I started. I actually had 9/11, I had the dot-com crisis, I had the house crisis, the banking crisis, and now we're seeming to have another crisis. I have never had so many customers. Actually, I think it's the future that freelancers will be the de facto working force in just about any branch. Because they're flexible, because for companies it's easy to hire and to fire them. So I think this will only get more common. Yes? Cool. Anything else? I would really like to thank you for your attention.